All right, well, as my regular subscribers know, I'm kind of in hibernation for the winter, or at least until I get some things in order. But I figured that since Wikipedia is blacking out its website in protest against censorship today, I figure I could chime in with a few good videos on some political subjects. Definitely see my last one on the Bill of Rights, indefinite detention, and the whole question of whether the Bill of Rights only applies to citizens. That's a big misnomer going around. This one was started by neoconservatives or by Cheney. Somebody, I don't know who on earth started that one, but it's just not true at all, period. The Bill of Rights does not apply only to citizens. That is false. The original intent, I'm not talking about some Supreme Court justice that lived 100 years later. The original intent was not for the Bill of Rights to apply only to American citizens. Okay, but this video is going to be on something slightly different. We're going to talk about global warming, the Keystone oil pipeline. Yeah, the Keystone oil pipeline is definitely bad news. It's bad news for not just for the environment, but bad news for the people whose property would be seized through eminent domain and given to a private corporation. Okay, notice how they legalized that one. And that was the so-called Democrats in the Supreme Court that allowed that one, which is proof that we don't have a two-party system. We have one corporate party with two heads. Note also, by the way, that Mr. Free Enterprise, Mr. Private Property, Grover Norquist, the one who doesn't want his wealthy friends to pay taxes, well, he's all in favor of this pipeline. I thought he was for the right to private property. What happened? Suddenly he's in favor of eminent domain. You know, folks, we need to get off of oil, period. We need to get on to other sources of renewable energy. It's not only vital for the environment and for the issue of global warming, which I will be getting into momentarily, it is also vital to our national security that we do not have the Saudis, that we do not have radical Islamicists financed by the Gulf monarchies dictating our foreign policy, okay? Whether it's in the Middle East or anywhere else, okay? Because as it is, the Saudis and other oil-producing states have tremendous political influence that they ought not to have until or unless they reform themselves, drop their religious intolerance, and liberalize, okay? And by the way, liberalization is a good word. What that means is to modernize and to respect individual freedom. Okay, they've made liberal a bad word in this country, but it does not mean some kind of a whatever it is a lot of you think it means. Some, if you call a person a liberal, then they're supposedly they hate America and they hate this and they hate that. No, that is not what a liberal means. Thomas Jefferson would have been considered a liberal. Thomas Paine definitely was a liberal. FDR, I mean, the way these words have been bandied about. All right, well, anyways, I promised to talk on global warming, so here it is. I find it profoundly disturbing that there are quote-unquote scientists going around claiming that there is no such thing as global warming. In particular, these quote-unquote scientists, actually some reputable scientists, although I think in Freeman Dyson's case he's not a, he's a physicist, he's not a climatologist, but you have quote-unquote experts going around claiming that there's no such thing as anthropogenic global warming. Well, here's how I would respond to that. And this is actually in a way for high school science teachers. It can be tested. Not only can it be tested in the laboratory, it can be tested in the classroom. It's very simple. The fact that carbon dioxide heats an atmospheric system is something you can test right in the high school science classroom. You have a light and a tank, okay, it's some kind of sealed cylinder, and you have two identical systems, okay? You would have to have one system that would have plants in it that would breathe in carbon dioxide, thus there would be less carbon dioxide, and another system sealed, presumably, or you science teachers would have to design this experiment. I'm not an expert. I don't know if I'd want to seal in plants. That wouldn't maybe be a good idea, but somehow, some way, you would have one system where there would be carbon dioxide and one system where there would be less carbon dioxide. You would have to have some kind of control for the plants produce shade, so you'd have to have In the non-plant tank, where you'd have more carbon dioxide, you'd have to have a similar shade. You'd have to establish controls in every respect, humidity and every other respect, and then see, after a time, which is different, the one with more carbon dioxide or one with less carbon dioxide. Have a thermometer in both and read them. You can test the fact that carbon dioxide is a greenhouse gas. You can test it in the laboratory. It was known long before Al Gore. It was known long before hippie environmentalists. It was known long before, I don't know, the French, whatever it is you want to blame for global warming. It was known long ago. I think going on about 100 years now. I should have researched who discovered it. I believe it was discovered around the turn of the 20th century. I don't actually know when CO2 as a global greenhouse gas was discovered. The point is, it's established science, okay? You could do a similar test with methane. You could do a very similar test. Now, the question is, to what extent an overall warming would produce a uniform warming? I mean, very clearly, a warming of the planet might make some regions colder because weather is a dynamic system. The point is that what a warming system will do is produce more climactic chaos by definition. Okay, the more heat, the more entropy. The more heat, the more you're going to have some areas that are hot, some areas that are cold, some areas that are high pressure, some areas that are low pressure. You will have winds, floods, hail, the firstborn, you know what I'm saying. I'm just kidding, okay? I mean, the point is you're going to have some of the weather patterns that we've been seeing over the past 20 years. Yes, I acknowledge ice age cycles, and I think that's a valid point of research, okay? I understand about the little ice age. I think it's interesting to note that the Earth started warming from the last little ice age, not the major ice age, but the last cooling. The major ice age was, you know, about 12,000 years ago. But I mean, the last minor kind of icy period, about 160 years ago or so, right when we began to have more soot and more the waste products of industrialism being emitted into the air. It's interesting. I'm not making a scientific claim about that. There are obviously other factors. I understand that. However, you cannot deny that what we add to the atmosphere will warm the atmosphere. That is a scientific fact. And as it is now, we are adding more and more. Because not only Americans, but people in other countries will want more and more. Human beings being what human beings are. We are selfish and greedy. I'm sorry for a lot of my more left-leaning progressive listeners who readers or watchers, however you're consuming this, who want to, watchers, all right, who want to believe in the natural man construct, who want to believe in the utopian Rousseau ideal natural man. The fact of the matter is, by nature, we do want things. By nature, there is a certain degree of both selflessness and selfishness in the human animal. That is why appeals to asceticism, to moralism, to puritanicalism are not going to solve the climate crisis. What we need to do is to have an alternative form of fuel that will satisfy our gluttonous consumer demands that will not pollute the atmosphere. Those of you who want a more perfect society, you want to get beyond capitalism, that's all fine and good. But I think that to solve an environmental problem, we need to deal with the world as it is, not the world as we want it to be. You can do that afterwards. But for right now, we need to have, well, for one thing, we need to have to break the stranglehold of the oil companies so that inventions that exist as it is, meaning fuel-efficient cars, can get on the market. Because as it is, you have, I'm not sure if it would be the oil companies, you have the car companies possibly bowing to the same economic forces that control the oil companies, suppressing these inventions, buying up the patents and not letting them onto the market. That is a violation of our antitrust laws, and that needs to stop. But finally, we need to stop even before that, we need to stop the denial that there is a problem here. There is a problem here. Glaciers are melting. Folks, we need to deal with the real problem. We need to deal with the world as it is, not as we want it to be. Thank you.